Andy Fleming's Brother Trucker. Andy Fleming and Brother Trucker's Downtown Tune kicking it off today, folks, here on the Fallon Forum. We're going to talk with Fred Van Loo later in the program about corrections in Polk County. There is some controversy over the approach being used to incarceration, to fighting crime here in Polk County, coming under a fair bit of criticism. We're going to talk with Fred about that later in the program. Also later today, Zach Heffernan is joining us. He is the new Marcher Director for the Great March for Climate Action. He's been working his fingers to the bones, and I've been doing my part to help. We're also going to talk about a couple other things. We got a little bit of celebrating to do. Yesterday was a heck of a day for food with the vote in the U.S. Congress on the Farm Bill, striking down basically a bill that would have taken $20 billion, yep, the B word, billion, out of the food stamp program or the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. And also here on the local level, the state level, Governor Branstad signing the appropriation for the Food Bank of Iowa. Interesting timing. Dan Kelly's on my show, and shortly thereafter, the governor signs the appropriation for the food bank. I think there's a connection. Anyway, well, we can't prove that. But yeah, so we're going to kick it off, though, with a conversation about the Des Moines Metro Opera. And I want to thank the Des Moines Metro Opera for helping to sponsor this program. And I want to welcome Nick Renkowski to the show. Nick, welcome.
Hi, glad to be here.
Last year we had a guest on the show who was a visitor from Texas. He played the lead in Don Giovanni.
That's right. His name's Michael Mays. He's a very talented baritone from Texas. If I recall, it was about 105 degrees that day.
I think you're exaggerating. I think it was 100.
That's right. Yeah. And he
was from Texas. He wanted to make him feel welcome.
That's precisely right. He said this feels like September for him. So I'm glad to have a little cooler weather, though it's still a little warm outside, but not anything unusual for Iowa this time of year.
So what's your role with the opera?
Well, I'm the director of marketing. I don't do any singing. Thank goodness. If I was in charge of doing any singing, we wouldn't have any seats sold. I can promise you that. So it's my job to get the word out, come on shows like yours, and talk about what we're doing at Des Moines Metro Opera.
So, and you've got 3 productions this year.
3 productions starting tonight. Tonight is opening night. I told you before the show, this is as casual as I'm going to look today. As soon as I get off the air here, I'm going to have to put a tuxedo on.
Not to rub it in, but this is as dressed up as I'm going to look today.
That's perfectly fine. So we've got Romeo and Juliet opening up tonight. That, of course, based on the Shakespeare play, but set to the music of Charles Gounod, a French composer from the 19th century. And tomorrow we have perhaps the 20th century's most important opera, perhaps the greatest opera of the last 100 years, Peter Grimes by Benjamin Britten, an English composer, probably actually with very little argument, England's greatest opera composer, whose birthday is in November, and were he still alive would be turning 100 in 2013. And so that's why we're celebrating with a production of his greatest opera.
And Britten is a fabulous composer on a number of levels.
Absolutely.
His choral works are great. His orchestral stuff, fantastic.
That's right, and there's a lot of that. If you're familiar with, a lot of people are familiar with Britten through symphonies, and some
Ceremony of Carols, Christmas performance.
Exactly right. Yeah. A lot of people got to know him through the Young Man's Guide to the Orchestra.
Young Person.
That's exactly right. So right.
Come on, a little political correctness.
That's right. That's exactly right. Goodness. Yes. So and he's sort of well known in those different areas. But he's also a great opera composer, and a lot of the things you hear on a symphony recording of Britten's, his C interludes, are from this opera, Peter Grimes. And I saw the dress rehearsal last night, and it is something else. So we're really excited about that. That starts on Saturday, and then we have an Iowa premiere, never been done before in the state, of Strauss's Elektra, one of the great German operas, certainly from the 20th century, and that's a fantastic cast. Like I said, never been done here before. Not the kind of thing a company our size usually gets to do. Yeah. It's taking one of the largest orchestras we've ever had. Multiple players here in our tiny little pit playing loud music to the 467 people that will be filling our theaters on the 4 nights that Elektra plays. That premieres on the next Saturday, but that performance on the 29th, the next Saturday, is completely sold out. And most of the other Elektra performances are sold out as well. Your best option is July 9th. That's a Tuesday, if you want to see that.
Yeah, it's a true credit to your work and to the work of all the other folks involved with the opera. And I think to Des Moines as well for the fact that you can attract such a high-level performance with high-quality performers.
Absolutely.
And then I mean, a lot of these performances are sold out.
Mm-hmm. And they're sold out with people from outside of the Des Moines area. 45% of our audience comes from someplace outside of Des Moines, Ames, Indianola, that Golden Circle area. We're really proud of that. 33 states already this year, a couple foreign countries. It's something we take a lot of pride in because there are people coming from New York, from Minneapolis, from Chicago, places that have world-renowned opera companies, and they're choosing to come to our company in supplement to, or in some cases instead of their home companies, and that says a lot about the talent we're able to attract and the amount of people from out of town we're able to attract. And like I said, we're very proud of that number, but I'd love to challenge Des Moines people to drive that ratio up a little bit higher. If you've lived here your entire life and you've never gone to an opera, this is the perfect first year. If you just moved here from someplace else and you're looking for things to do, this is a great season for that. Any of the 3 shows you see, in fact, and this may sound like a marketing ploy, perhaps it is, but if you've never seen opera before and you're not sure if you like it, or worse, you already think you don't like it, buy a subscription, see all 3, and then talk to me, because I can't think of 3 different operas, I can't think of 3 operas, only 3 that would give you a better swatch of what the art form is about. Each piece was written about 50 years apart, and that difference in classical music is informed in each one of the pieces. So it's a good year. It's a good buffet platter for all, as much as any 3 shows can be, for all of the art form.
And we Americans sure love our buffets.
That's right, exactly. We have good point. And actually, to that point, we have pre-opera meals before every.
Oh, do you really?
And I don't miss a trick here on the marketing show. Yes.
So how does that work?
You have the option to go online or call our phone number. That's 961-6221 to, if you bought tickets.
961-6221.
That's right. To purchase a pre-opera meal on the Friday and Saturday evenings. That's provided by Embassy Club. And on Sunday matinees at 2 p.m., those are buffets from Gateway Market. And that's 2 p.m. is the performance. I believe you can start eating noonish or so. Good. So it's a good deal.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward. I'm going to go to one of the productions and looking forward to it immensely. Went last year, and again, got to see Don Giovanni, and Michael Mays was as engaging on stage as he was in the studio. And he makes a great villain. I mean, that takes some guts to go up there and be the bad guy. You know?
Especially, right, in front of all those people, and absolutely. And, now the way the opera industry has moved because of camera technology, because of the lowering costs of, say, web rights and broadcasting and that kind of thing, we're really getting to see the singers and see the performances. It used to be, even 30 years ago, you'd get someone with a great voice and they'd just stand around and in costume and basically give a concert version of the opera. But
there's a lot of movement to it now.
And we've sort of been ahead of the curve by necessity. You went to our theater last year. It's very intimate. Depending on where you're sitting, you can be as close to the performers as I am to you right now, Ed. And that has meant that we have always put a premium on singing actors, not just great voices. We get great voices, but they also have to be able to emote and really play the dramatic parts. That's something we're seeing more now as bigger companies are dabbling into broadcasting and getting cameras right there. But we've been in high definition for 41 years now, so it's something we've kind of been. I won't say. I mean, maybe a little boastful to say ahead of the curve, but it's something we've always had to deal with. Casting people appropriate to their ages. Sometimes you'll get a Romeo and Juliet who are 60 and 65. This year we've got 2 young Romeo and Juliets. And it's that kind of thing that you have to have when you have the level of realism that we are stuck with our intimate theater. And I say stuck with...
in a favorable way.
In a favorable way.
Right.
It's really been a benefit for us. It's one of those reasons those 45% comes from outside of the area.
Yeah. No, my history with the opera goes back a long ways, and it was a very interesting beginning. 1985, I was in a Spanish class at Drake University. Actually, would have been 86 at that point, the spring of 86, and I was one of the better Spanish speakers in the class, and we had to do a play as part of and none of us were actors. Everybody was horrible at acting. Most of us were horrible at Spanish. Mine was better than most, but I was an older student, And the guy filming it, who was doing some commercials for the opera, said, "Hey, dude, you look like William Shakespeare. We'll pay $100 to come do a promo for the Des Moines Metro Opera, pretending you're William Shakespeare." Well, $100 back then sounded like great news to me. I even let them shave a little. I had more hair back then, and I actually let them shave a little bit off. They were surprised that I was willing to do that, but I thought it'd be a good experience for me to get a taste of what my future was going to be like, phallically speaking.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, sure. A little glimpse in the future.
It was a lot of fun.
Do you remember what you were promoting? Was it the Tempest? The Tempest, yeah.
And I had one line: "Prithee, they've taken my great display, The Tempest, and they've made it into an opera. I can't wait to see it." Anyway.
Well, then 30 years later, you've got it all.
I got it all, yeah. Well, I rehearsed it in front of the mirror so often, I'll never forget it.
And that was a world premiere. We had commissioned that piece.
That's right.
So I'm saying we. I wasn't around.
Can I put that on my resume? That
Please
I did a commercial for a world premiere of the
Please, absolutely. You're part of operatic history, no doubt about it.
I wish I had a clip from that video.
Well, you know what? I'll have to, because we've got an archive down in the basement that I've gone through extensively. I'm going to look for that for you. If we can find that, we'll hopefully try to embarrass you a little bit.
I can do that on my own, but any help always welcome.
Well, that's really and that's indicative of the kind of quaintness isn't quite the word, but this sort of community, let's put on a show type. We are very sophisticated, and we're using some of the best singers in the business, but this is very much a local opera company. It's part of the performing arts tapestry here in Des Moines and across the state. And that kind of thing that maybe 30 years ago, but we still do that sort of thing. We often will use for supernumeraries, which is a fancy word for extra.
Supernumeraries.
Supernumerary, that's right.
It sounds like an action figure.
It does a little bit, yes. We'll have to see the adventures of supernumerary. But people who hold candelabras or open doors we will often use people from the community just to get people more engaged. I mean, engagement's the number one thing we talk about because of the intimacy of our theater, because of how invested people get in our company. And that's right. Well, your story there, which is remarkable, is right in line with that kind of tradition.
And the funny part, I mean, it was all sorts of improvising going on.
Sure.
Including, okay, what are we going to do with Shakespeare? Let's have him sitting at a piano. Because I can play piano. Okay. So they had me playing a Bach partita on the piano. Of course, Bach never composed for the piano. It was invented after he composed.
Absolutely.
And Shakespeare lived before Bach. But
right, yeah.
So there's William Shakespeare playing Bach on the piano.
It's and I would say that doesn't make any sense. But if we
it was engaging.
If we took the doesn't make sense banner and applied it to opera plots, we wouldn't have too many opera plots. So that's all part of the fun of it. There's a willing suspension of disbelief that William Shakespeare is playing Bach on a piano and is interested in what we're doing in Des Moines in 1985. That's all playful and that kind of fun.
Being portrayed by a college student that was snatched from a really, really low quality production of a Spanish play. Actually, it was Aesop's Fables, if you must know.
In Spanish?
I got to be Aesop.
Okay. Yeah. Because your Spanish was, you got the lead because your Spanish was so good.
I was the older student, 26. Mm-hmm. Spanish was better, maybe because I was older, maybe because I...
Now, here you really impressed me if you can give me a line from the play in Spanish.
Let's see. Yo soy magnífico. I'm trying to remember the lines.
I am magnificent?
Yeah.
I didn't take Spanish. Yeah. I was able to pick that one out.
Yeah, I could probably give you more if I had a few more minutes. But
you know what? You could probably just make something up. Donde está el baño? And I'd be like, oh, that's something,
Donde está el conejo?
That's right. There you go.
All right. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. And again, I hear people all the time, even people who like classical music, saying, "Well, I like classical music, but not really the opera." But I think people need to give it a chance. It's really, and the way it's presented, and you guys are like innovative in terms of opera companies across the country. People need to give it a chance. I think they'll find it very exciting, very fulfilling.
I'll have a conversation and I'll say I work for an opera company, and people will tell me that they don't like opera, which is, of course, they're right. And then I'll ask them what operas they've seen. They can't produce a single one that they've seen. So they've learned it from Bugs Bunny or from commercials or whatever it is. And that's fine. I can't... It is something that's, let's call it acquired, let's call it... It's a very inclusive art form, but it does take a little... You have to meet it halfway. And if you do that and you don't like it, totally fine. But I am in the business not just of selling tickets to Des Moines Metro Opera, but to fostering that next generation of opera lovers.
Right.
And sometimes you may try it when you're 25 and say, this isn't for me. And then you may hear the right piece when you're 35. And that's what triggers it for me. I was lucky enough to see the right piece when I was 10 years old. And I've been a lover of classical music since then.
Well, and all confessions. I was among the folks who said, I like classical and I love classical. I am a classical musician, but I'd still never wrap my arms around opera.
Sure.
That has changed in recent years. And again, partly because you guys are doing fantastic work.
Our staff and our coaches and directors who come from all over the world to work here there are numerous stories just like yours. Didn't like it. I was in musical theater. I liked music, but I didn't like opera. I was studying voice for musical theater. Then I found X, Y, and Z, and now I'm a convert. And it really, again, not to be dramatic, but I am in an opera company.
You're entitled to be dramatic.
It can change your life, and for the better. So it's something that if you've lived here your whole life, why not give it a try? Yeah. It's a good evening, and we have popcorn. So what else? What else can you really need?
And you have all the information that is needed to figure out what's happening, which performances occur when, and where to go to buy tickets. That's online. DesMoinesMetroOpera.org, and you can also always call 961-6221 for any information. 961-6221.
That's right.
Thanks so much, Nick, for coming on the program. Thanks to the Des Moines Metro Opera for helping to sponsor this segment of our show. Again, we talk mostly about issues, hard-hitting political, social issues, but Des Moines has become the cultural and culinary crossroads of America. So let's take time to be proud of how much we've accomplished. We've got the Repertory Theater of Iowa performing this week. We've got the Art Festival coming up. We've got 8035. It is amazing how much is happening here in Des Moines, and certainly the Des Moines Metro Opera on the top of the list of things that are worth checking out. Thanks so much, Nick.
Happy to be here.
I also want to thank the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club, the Iowa Physicians for Social Responsibility, for sponsoring the Fallon Forum. And I want to thank some of my business partners as well, Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling. Also, Hawk Restaurant at East 5th and Locust. 90% of the food they serve comes from Iowa farms. And I want to thank the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit. That's an event coming up in November. Long ways away, but worth preparing for. It's a great opportunity for you to start and grow your business and learn a lot about how to make that happen. I'll be back in a few minutes. Zach Heffernan, the new marcher director with the Great March for Climate Action, is going to join us. We're going to see what kind of mischief he's been up to and what kind of progress is being made at putting together this epic hike across America to demand action to address the climate crisis.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little, until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back, everyone. That is Mr. Baber's Neighbors, and we're kicking off segment 2 of the Fallon Forum today, sponsored by Gateway Market and Cafe. I want to thank a few of our other sponsors as well. Tally's Restaurant, Bar, and Catering in Beaverdale. Also, Diana's Wedding Cakes. That's out of Newton, but she'll deliver wedding cakes to wherever you want them to go, and they are pretty good cakes from what I hear. S&P Piano, also one of my business supporters for moving pianos. They don't get any stronger, brawnier, or more entertaining than the folks at S&P Piano. I want to welcome Zach Heffernan to the program. Zach is a recent U of I graduate who fled Iowa City for the good life here in the cultural and culinary crossroads of America, but not for cultural reasons, for reasons related to climate change. Zach has been hired as the Marcher Director for the Great March for Climate Action. Zach, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Ed. Nice to be here.
And so you graduated from University of Iowa with a degree in...
I graduated with 2 degrees, one in management and one in marketing. I actually have to be one of the only college students in the world that went 2 years without a microwave or a TV.
A microwave or a TV?
Yeah.
Is that documented? Can you prove that?
You could ask my wife.
But nonetheless, you survived.
Yep, I did okay.
And you were involved with some campus activism as well.
Yeah, about a year ago, I started and presided over an organization called Students for Human Rights, and we led a campaign to save the University of Iowa Center for Human Rights. And not only did we save it, we amplified its budget.
Okay,
when I first started running the campaign, several people on campus were telling me, you're trying to do something impossible. Why are you even doing this? One of the people working at the center himself said, Zach, if you do this, I will nominate you for president.
Okay, so you've been nominated for president as well.
I'm going to hold him to it.
Yeah, not yet. You're going to wait on that.
You have to be 35, I think.
Okay. Well, yeah, you don't have to be 35 to be nominated.
Okay.
Well, okay. The nomination is up to the electorate, I guess. But
I guess you could probably tell me better than I could tell you.
No, you're probably right. Okay, so anyway, you've attempted the impossible, and you've been successful, and now you're attempting another impossible.
Yeah, I always like a good challenge.
Well, it's not impossible. In fact, it looks like it's coming together pretty well, but it is a challenge. Organizing 1,000 marchers across this country to demand action on climate change.
And I'll tell you what, it's a dream job for me. I get to meet and talk to 1,000 other people that are passionate about the same thing I'm passionate about. And the application process is coming along really well right now.
Okay, so why not just have, you say an application process? Some people would want to know, well, can't just anybody just jump on board and march?
Well, we want to make sure people, have the same message that we have. We're going to have a core message. We want people to be on board with it. Also, we want to make sure people are capable of making it across the entire country.
Physically.
Yeah, physically. Yeah. And mentally. It'll be a mental challenge as well. Yeah. People are going to be giving up their jobs for 9 months. They're going to be giving up, their home life for 9 months to go on this huge march. We have to prepare them.
Yeah. And it's a challenge on a number of levels for sure. Do you have any sense of how many people might begin to apply? And I know the application process hasn't started yet.
Mm-hmm. We have right around 100 people on standby already, which is great news.
Okay. And so when will they get off standby and board the jet?
So the march starts next March, March 1st, 2014. So hopefully they'll show up a couple days ahead of time, go over a few things, and then we'll get on the way.
But when do they actually start formally applying?
Yeah, the application process. We're going to be releasing the application early next month. Okay. And so I'll be sending out an email to everybody. We're going to be releasing it through social media and what have you, and people can fill out the application and get it back to us. We're going to be accepting them on a rolling basis.
Okay. What else have you been doing with the march?
Well, I'm currently, like you said, director of the marchers, but I feel like I could be director of a lot of things around here. I'm working on social media. I'm working on, blogs. We got 5 blogs up this week, one in Think Progress, which was really cool, big blog.
That's a pretty big publication, I believe.
Yeah, the next day, my email was swelled. I spent all day doing emails that day from people who read the blog and were curious about it.
Good stuff. Yeah. So where are we getting? And again, I work with you, but I don't know some of this because I'm kind of working on other projects. So this is good for me and Zach to catch up. Thanks for letting us have a little staff meeting here on the show. No, the what in terms of where the inquiries are coming from, the folks who are reading these blog posts, they're from any particular part of the country, or
all across the nation, every state in the nation, and even outside. We got international people sending us inquiries, questions, comments, and concerns.
Every state, Delaware.
I guess I'd have to count.
But a lot. I mean, quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We get lots of emails every day, and it's great. I love my job because I get to see the passion coming in every day from people all around the country.
Yeah. Well, and people are passionate about this because I think more and more people are realizing that this is an unprecedented crisis, and that if we don't address it, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think one of the favorite things I've been hearing lately is it's not the prevailing issue confronting our society, it is the prevailing crisis. My wife was telling me on the way here today, actually, she heard a quote, people are always talking about the weather, how come they're not doing anything about it? You know, but they are. People are starting to do things about it.
Yeah, and some people will say, well, you can't change the weather. Well, the truth is, humanity has impacted the weather by changing the climate.
Absolutely.
Through our activities.
Yeah, completely verified by science.
So now relevant to the urgency of this issue. I mean, and every day in the news, there's something that inclines you to believe, hey, we got to wake up. This one is out of Canada. I other than the challenges facing the Arctic Circle, I have not heard of other climate-related weather disasters in Canada. But this one interested me in today's paper. Flooding may force 100,000 people from West Canada home. I thought it's like half the population of the whole country, isn't it?
That's quite a bit.
No, I'm exaggerating, but yeah, 100,000 people might be forced from their homes in Western Canada. Calgary city officials say that this could happen because of heavy flooding, which has caused mudslides, forced the closure of the Trans-Canada Highway. Officials are saying that the evacuation would take place in stages over the next few days. This is huge. I mean, that's got to be a major effort for a country that's probably not used to having to move with that many people that quickly because of a weather-related issue.
Absolutely. And I heard a pretty cool analogy the other day about climate disasters. They compared it to steroids. We have a lot more climate disasters, and we may not know which ones are resulting from us, but we know that we're doing more. The same way a baseball player takes steroids, he gets more home runs. Some of them come from the steroids, but we can't always tell which ones do. Yeah. So human activity is producing more frequent and more violent storms.
Yeah, and that's a good analogy. And I know other folks, including Climate Reality, Al Gore's group, have made that comparison with what we've got now. Due to the changing climate is weather on steroids.
Yep.
I think an important distinction people have to make is between weather and climate. You know, weather is the stuff that's happening right now, and if I go outside on my bike, I'm probably going to get wet. Didn't see that coming. Weather happens in a specific place at a specific time. Climate is the big picture.
Absolutely.
It's like the structure of your home. You know, you can have something happen in one room, and you may not realize it's affected by the structure of your home, by a structural deficiency. But that's what we're dealing with. We're creating a structural deficiency in our atmosphere. I mean, the planet's going to probably pull out of this. I hope we do. The sooner we pull out of it, the sooner we start to address the problem, the better our chances are.
Yeah, and we're in it together, us and the planet.
Yeah, we are. And there's a really good article, or editorial rather, or Iowa View, call it, in today's Des Moines Register by Gene Tackley and Gregory Carmichael from Iowa State University and University of Iowa. Maybe you know Carmichael. He's from your alma mater. No?
Okay. No, I know the University of Iowa.
Okay,
but
yeah. Well, they're saying that climate science cannot tell us for sure what the next season or year will bring, weather-wise. It can, however, help us understand which way our future weather is heading. And with extensive study, they point out that that these studies have shown that heat-trapping gases like CO2, methane, and black carbon — I'm not familiar with black carbon — are resulting. Then, of course, that results from fossil fuel usage. It's shifting our future toward more extreme events. I mean, we've seen that here in Iowa.
Absolutely. And there is some things that we can predict. We can predict that the temperature is going to increase. It's been increasing. We can predict that the oceans are going to rise. They've been rising. I actually saw an article the other day. I was trying to be humorous. It said, well, good thing for the jet ski and water skiing business. There's going to be more water. But it's not the right direction that we need to be taking.
Well, it's also a good thing for piano tuners because the pianos are acting more erratic now, too. I mean, seriously, this is who thinks about these things? So, yeah, climate change could be good for the piano tuning movement.
No, they're making
the
more money.
industry,
They can
but-
charge higher rates, I guess.
Well,
now.
but
Supply and
on
demand.
balance, you're creating these problems that we have no capacity, we have no history to deal with.
Cities are going to go underwater. Parts of countries are going to go underwater. I saw an article the other day. It showed what the Jefferson Memorial would look like by the year
saw that, yeah.
2100, and it was going to be partially submerged.
Yeah,
I've never seen the Jefferson Memorial. I'd like to see it.
Go see it now. You'll be looking at it by canoe. Yeah. No, my biggest concern about sea rise, all those damn Yankee fans are going to move here from Manhattan. That would really be awful.
We may have to relocate our business somewhere.
Yeah, that would be horrible. Anyway, Zach, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your work, for your passion, for your commitment to this issue.
Absolutely.
I think
Glad to be here.
Your life is probably going to get more interesting and more complicated before it gets easier.
I hope so.
Zach Heffernan, folks, recent U of I grad and now working as the Marcher Director for the Great March for Climate Action. I want to thank Gateway Market and Cafe for sponsoring this segment of the show. Gateway is my favorite grocery store. They're at 20th and Woodland. Again, I was glad to hear they're also partnering with the Des Moines Metro Opera. Check out Gateway Market, folks, for groceries and also for breakfast, for lunch, for supper, and as a fantastic catering service. I want to thank a few of my other business supporters as well. Ritual Cafe at 13th and Locust in downtown Des Moines. Also Fighting Burrito, that same corner. Lots of good stuff happening at 13th and Locust. Fighting Burrito, been there for about 6 months now. Great custom-made burritos at very affordable prices. Also, you'll find Fighting Burrito at 117 Welch Ave in Ames. Speaking of Ames, Story County Veterinary Clinic, one of our other business partners. That's Dr. Kim Holdings' business on Highway 30 between Ames and Nevada. When we come back, we're going to shift gears somewhat dramatically and talk about criminal justice and corrections here in Polk County. Coming under a lot of fire from a lot of people. The kind of so-called tough on crime approach does not seem to be working, but it does seem to be getting tougher and some would say less smart. We're going to talk with Fred Van Loo about that when we come back here on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day uno one of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. but actually it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Bringing us back to this segment of the Fallon Forum, Max Wellman and the Max Wellman Trio. I want to thank Ritual Cafe for sponsoring this segment of our show. And again, my other business supporters as well. Sergeant's Garage at 6th and College, just north of downtown. They have serviced 4 generations of Fallon mobiles. The latest incarnation, still going strong on 237,000 miles. Actually going strong. It's pretty much sitting there, letting grapevines grow around it while I use my bike for most of my activities. Dan Kelly Real Estate. Also, thank you to Dan Kelly and his real estate business for sponsoring the Fallon Forum. And thank you to Fred Van Loo for joining us here in the studio to talk about corrections in Polk County. There has been some controversy lately around the approach to corrections here in Polk County, and Fred is among the many people who've been raising some concerns about that. Fred, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
You come right up to the mic.
All
there.
right.
There we go.
Great.
And you were formerly with the county attorney. So you've seen this from the inside. For a while.
Sure. I was there in the mid '80s. Dan Johnston hired me, of all people, and in fact, I ran into Dan last night at a meeting. But and then I was there from 1991 through most of 2010. And the last 5 years there, I ran the Juvenile Bureau. And so a lot of the interest in terms of how things are going locally with our justice system is in response to what the juvenile
So you were there under Dan Johnston a long time ago.
Right.
And then Smith. I forget Smith's first name.
And then Jim Smith.
Jim Smith, right.
That's right.
And then Jim Sarcone.
John Sarcone.
John Sarcone.
That's right.
Yeah. So you've seen some changes.
Well, I have. I mean, I've been an advocate of a theory, concept, approach to justice called restorative justice. We spoke about it on this program a few months ago.
Yes.
And a lot of people have come to see that really is the promise of the future, whether it will happen or not. It's an approach that says that punishment is really not where our priority should be, that the addressing of the harm caused by an offense is really where we ought to be focusing our attention. So we tried to do that with the juvenile system for about 5 years. And
that was under Sarcone? Or?
Yeah, that was under Sarcone. I was the bureau chief. John was and still is the county attorney.
Right.
And we reduced juvenile court filings by about 50%. And in the first full year after I retired in 2010, filings went up 145%.
So do you attribute that to your departure and a different direction authored by the county attorney?
Well, I can't help but think that there's any other reason because the arrest rate of juveniles in Des Moines went up 3% in the same year that filings went up 145%. And I think you gave me a call in response to a state report that was issued a couple of weeks ago by the Criminal and Juvenile Justice Planning Agency, which really paints a picture even more stark than what I just painted for you.
Yeah. It's gotten even more extreme.
Well, more extreme. It collaborates what the facts that we've had concerning filings, but what's even more concerning is the disproportionate minority confinement in the courts now. I think there is, you may have seen the article in the Des Moines Register.
Yes.
This past Sunday, 17 ministers signed off on that article. And among the facts cited were the fact that in 2012, even though black youth comprise only 10% of the total number of youth in Polk County, there were more delinquency petitions, that's what we call them, filed against black youth than white youth.
How high was that percentage?
It was, I would say it's less than 10%, but the fact that 10% of our population had more petitions filed against them than the...
Oh, so the black youth are 10% of the youth population
That's right.
in Polk County, but the petitions filed in juvenile court were over half. Am I hearing you right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
right. The petitions filed against blacks exceeded the number of petitions filed against whites.
Okay.
Right.
Right. And what about other minority groups?
Same thing. I think the Latino petitions are way on the rise as well. I don't think they exceeded the whites in the way that the blacks did. Another statistic that was in that Sunday article was that in the last 2 years, that the percentage increase in black youth taken to the local detention center for simple misdemeanors, which are the least serious offenses, increased by 760%. In 2 years, a 760% increase of black youth taken to the detention center.
Now, is this merely a philosophical difference? Is it the older tough on crime? I mean, the paradigm used to be tough versus, soft on crime, and more people are shifting to a smart versus, dumb on crime, if I can call it that. I mean, where you approach criminal justice with an intent to try to truly, improve behavior, reduce recidivism, reduce costs. Is this maybe a fallback to the time when?
Well, let me
people
ask you
thought
this,
in terms
Ed.
of tough versus
How do you deal
soft?
with the exponential increase as it relates to minorities?
I don't know. I don't know why. I mean,
if it was.
Some would say, well, they're just behaving badly. Mm-hmm. I mean, and how do you respond to that?
I respond to that by saying that the arrests haven't gone up against blacks for offenses nearly to the extent that the filing of petitions has gone up against blacks.
So when you say filing of petitions, that's a decision by the county attorney.
That's right.
To proceed with
Formal
criminal
court
action. Right.
Yeah, that's right. The county attorney has the discretion to file or not file. And
okay, so why would the county attorney? What's your assumption? Why is he doing that?
I believe that the county attorney, John Sarcone, is a man of high integrity. It baffles me why. It does baffle me. I don't want to characterize him as it relates to a bias.
Well, and I'm neither black nor a youth, but I can relate to this problem a little bit because as part of the Occupy protest back in 2011, I mean, one of your former bosses, one of the former county attorneys, was just shocked that Mr. Sarcone decided to proceed with trials against about 15 of us,
right,
at a huge cost to the county taxpayers. And so maybe it's not strictly an issue of the fact that these are young and black youth. Mm-hmm. Maybe it is. I'm not ruling that out as a possibility. I'm saying I know of at least one other case where it seemed to make no sense to proceed with a trial, and yet the county attorney chose to do that.
Well, some people will say that the philosophy that's existent now is one best characterized by saying, "Hit them hard and hit them fast." That you need to be really, really tough the first time somebody comes into the system. That sounds good to a lot of people, but the research. There's no research that substantiates that.
It's the old philosophy. It's the tough versus.
That's right.
Tough versus
well,
soft.
It's still the philosophy.
Sure, it is. Yeah, but
it's still the philosophy, but it's not backed by research.
It's being challenged more and more.
Right.
And there had been more efforts in Polk County to use various restorative justice approaches, and that seems to be changing.
It changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Changed dramatically.
If Dan Charleston had been elected county attorney, do you feel there would have been a...
No, he was running for sheriff.
Sorry, sheriff. My bad, yeah. Well, do you feel he talked about restorative justice. I mean, I know we had some real significant differences on other issues, but do you feel there would have been any...
You know what? I only met Dan once or twice. He came to a class that I was teaching. I I didn't see anything in his history that suggested that he really had any grasp of where restorative justice was. I didn't see anything in his history that suggested that he ever advocated for it prior to running for sheriff. So, and quite frankly, Bill McCarthy is a very, very competent administrator. And restorative justice doesn't play out as much on that end of things anyway. I mean, you're a custodian of bodies.
Sure, it's not. It's not really the purview of the police, the sheriff's department, as much as it is the county attorney.
Yeah. So, the police. That's another story. The police. The police have the initial discretion, right?
Right.
They can arrest or not arrest. They can. A kid breaks a window. They can call the parents. Or as what appears to be the case by the statistics, they take the young black person out to the detention center. Despite the fact that the research is clear that when you detain a child, it's much more likely that that child will go deeper into the system. In fact, there is a well-respected sociologist, Brad Richards from Iowa City, University of Iowa, who has impressed on me that a single night's stay in a detention center, statistically, there's a statistical probability that will cause that child to be deeper in the system as a result of a single night. Yeah.
So you're talking about diversion from the word go, right from the start.
What I'm talking about, really, it's diversion. But before you get to diversion, what I'm really talking about is you have to make really good decisions from the go, from the get-go.
That involves the police, but also the county attorney. The
police, county attorney, judges, everybody along the line. Juvenile Court Services, which is the whole entity under the judicial branch that I can just give you a 30-second explanation of how things work. If the police stop a child, kid, anybody under the age of 18, they believe they've committed a crime, it's a delinquent act if you're a juvenile. If they believe they've committed a delinquent act, they can really do three things. They can send them on their way. They can say, go on, but I'm going to send paperwork over to Juvenile Court Services and let them make a decision on what happens to you. Or I can take you to the detention center. Okay, those are the three possibilities, really no more. With the second and third possibilities, I'm either going to take you to detention or I'm going to send the paperwork to Juvenile Court Services. And either one of those two, Juvenile Court Services ultimately gets the paperwork. Right. Okay, and they make a decision whether to involve the county attorney's office. Okay, so what many people believe is happening now is that there is a blurring of the roles and responsibilities of the juvenile court service and the prosecutor, and that there isn't the independent decision making that should be exercised by juvenile court service, because of pressure being put on them by the county attorney's office.
So, again, this issue has received some attention recently. The state report,
right?
The news coverage of this recently. Do you see any impact on the attorney's office in terms of interest in trying to move to a more balanced approach?
Not yet, but I'll tell you what the response in the community is. I think we talked about it when I was here a few months ago that we've initiated a court watch program. Right. So we've trained people and given them some tools to sit in juvenile court hearings and just monitor what's going on. What does justice look like to these kids? Okay. We're training. In fact, we had a training yesterday to train volunteers in the community to be school mediators so that we can slow down the suspension and arrests from our middle schools and high schools. Actually, one of the people that trained yesterday was the president of the local NAACP, as well as 4 or 5 ministers.
Nice.
We're starting a racial profiling project. AMOS, which I'm the justice coordinator for AMOS, which means a Mid-Iowa Organizing Strategy. We're collaborating with the Des Moines NAACP and ACLU of Iowa to interview anybody who believes they've been the victim of racial profiling. This is a huge deal. It's a huge deal. And there's a few places around the country. We're modeling this after a Yale Law School program from a few years ago that really blew the lid off of racial profiling practices in the New Haven area.
Well, I commend you for speaking out, for being active, for being a great resource on this, and I hope you don't get too much pushback from those who embrace the conventional approach.
What can they do, Ed? I'm retired.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I would like to get one or more of the ministers who have spoken out about this.
Sure, there's a lot of them.
I think having a kind of a faith perspective on this might be a good
Sure.
good discussion.
Absolutely.
Fred, thanks so much for joining us.
Okay.
Fred Van Loo, folks, with a Mid-Iowa organizing strategy, and also the other.
Well, I'm the director of the Center for Restorative Justice
Center
Practices.
for Restorative Justice
Yeah, the
Practices.
problem is my volunteer work is taking more time than my paid job. So you probably know about that too.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Okay, all right.
All right,
Ed.
thanks so much for joining us.
All right.
Hey, when we come back, folks, I'm going to talk about the Christian ministry that is closed and apologize for believing that they could somehow cure gays. This is a fascinating development. We're also going to talk about the big victories on food yesterday, both in the U.S. Congress and here in Iowa in the governor's office. We'll be back in just a minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
That's Mary McAdams, everyone, and we're back to our conversation. This final segment of the show was sponsored by the Repertory Theater of Iowa. Opening night last night for Shakespeare on the Lawn at the Salisbury House. Let's hope it doesn't rain tonight. If it does, there are makeup performances scheduled as well, but it's officially Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Great performance, A Midsummer Night's Dream. I had some folks from the production here in the studio this week, and it's going to be a really fun time. Anyway, if you're not going to the opera, go to that. And if you're going to the opera, go to this some other night. Anyway, we got a couple other things to talk about. Again, victory. You know, it's nice when you actually say, hey, we won one or two or three. Yesterday, we had three, we meaning the forces of good and justice. That would be me and everybody who thinks like me, right? All right, I'm being a little bit flip there. But we had some victories yesterday. One of them is relevant to Alan Chambers. Alan Chambers was the president of Exodus. Exodus International is a Christian ministry. It's been around for 37 years, focused on homosexuality. And I don't mean focused on it in terms of, hey, we're going to help homosexuals gain equality. No, the focus was to cure people of their homosexuality. And I remember talking with Chuck Hurley and others about this too, that they just believe that if you got the right the right input, if you embraced Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior and did a few other things, you might be able to move beyond this temptation to embrace a sinful lifestyle. So yeah, they worked for 37 years trying to, quote, cure gay people. And this is an amazing development, really. I'd love to get Bob Vanderplatz or Chuck Hurley or Danny Carroll or somebody from the family leader to tell me how they feel about this. I'd also love to get Donna Redwing on this program to get her take as a person with One Iowa on this. And we'll try to do that next week. But Alan Chambers, the head, says, quote, "For some time, we've been imprisoned in a worldview that's neither honoring toward our fellow human beings nor biblical." That is a huge statement. He wrote on his group's website that he wanted to apologize to the gay community for years of undue suffering and judgment at the hands of his organization and the church as a whole. This is astounding. I mean, this is truly astounding. This is like David and Charles Koch saying, "Hey, yeah, we were wrong on the climate change issue. We're going to donate $1 million to the Great March for Climate Action." It's kind of like that. And then I could actually start paying Zach. I mean, this guy, people started wondering, well, is he struggling with his own sexual identity? And apparently he might be. Chambers, who is married, according to the USA Today story, Chambers, who is married and has adopted 2 children, indicated that the apology was personal because, quote, "I conveniently omitted my ongoing same-sex attractions." Anyway, it's an astounding development. It's astounding development. And I think, again, we are really moving very, very quickly toward a time when sexual orientation is not going to matter anymore. Nobody's going to even care. All right, so something else to care about. The defeat yesterday of the Farm Bill. Again, I know that all of our Iowa congressional delegation voted for it. They probably felt they had to because they're from Iowa, ag state, lots of farm subsidies coming in. But this bill was a bad deal when a bill proposes a $20 billion cut to the food stamp program, when that would affect adversely, perhaps even dangerously, almost 200,000 families just here in Iowa. I say no vote is absolutely the only way to go. Again, I'd be happy to hear from our congressional delegation on why they felt otherwise, but I'm delighted that it failed. I think people are shocked that it failed because the leadership, in this case the House Republicans, leadership does not bring up a vote unless they do not bring up a bill unless they're sure they have the votes to pass it. So the wheels fell off somewhere here because this bill was defeated pretty soundly by a vote of 234 to 195. That's a pretty good margin. Now, what happens next? Well, I presume that they'll come back and try again. They've got to pass a farm bill, but I also presume that they may not take as big a chunk out of the food stamp program as they tried to do here. So again, very encouraging, very, very encouraging. The other encouraging thing that happened yesterday, Dan Kelly was on this program, as was Corey Berkenes. He's the coordinator of the food banks of Iowa. We were both discussing this situation in Congress, but it also came up the fact that the governor has on his desk a bill including a $1 million appropriation for Iowa's food banks. People have been thinking all along, Branson's probably going to veto that. Last year, he vetoed an appropriation that was half as much for the food banks. So what's the chance he's going to sign a bill that appropriates twice as much? Well, lo and behold, Dan calls me shortly after this program saying it happened. Governor Branstad signed the appropriation for Iowa's food banks. So on the food front, folks, a couple good pieces of news, and we should be very happy about that. And we should remember that despite the victories, there's plenty of work to do, and we should continue to push forward. Again, I want to thank the Repertory Theater of Iowa for helping to sponsor this segment of our show and encourage folks to check out their production of Midsummer's Night Dream as part of the Shakespeare on the Lawn series. That'll be 4 nights starting yesterday, tonight, Saturday, Sunday at the Salisbury House in Des Moines. A great performance. Also, speaking of great performances, the Des Moines Metro Opera's 3 productions, Peter Grimes, Electra, and Romeo and Juliet at Simpson College in Indianola. That season runs just starting tonight, runs for a few weeks, worth checking out. I want to thank my business supporters, including Tinker Heating and Cooling, Hawk Restaurant, Gateway Market and Cafe at 20th and Woodland, and also Community CPA and Associates. Please support the businesses, the events, and the organizations that believe in this alternative to talk radio. We do our part to bring conversations forward you won't hear elsewhere, and I would appreciate it if you would take the time and effort and spend your money at the businesses that believe in this alternative. So check them out, folks. Complete list is on my website, fallonforum.com. Thank you, Maddie Arrington, my producer. Thanks also to Ryan for filling in for part of this program. And thanks to Webcast One Live. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.